morning, everyone. As we all know, COVID cases around the world are rising at an alarming rate. In such a scenario, not much headway in the treatment of severe COVID cases has been seen. Currently, a vaccine is our biggest hope. Today, we have here Ms. Sheetal Ranganathan to discuss this race for a vaccine or a cure. Thank you for being here, ma'am.
Delighted to contribute to the ORF video series, and always a pleasure to speak with you, Kriti. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, ma'am. So, quickly jumping in, ma'am, the Oxford vaccine has recently entered large-scale human trials. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this? Do you think we will have an Oxford vaccine this year?
So, yeah, there are 2 to 3 subparts in this question, Kriti, that I'd like to, address. So please allow me a slightly longish monologue.
Yes,
so let me answer one by one. So first, I agree, a vaccine is our biggest hope, and it is very likely that there will be one or more than one eventually, because the COVID-19 vaccine project has full political, scientific, and financial backing, unlike any other project in the past. So in normal circumstances, vaccine development is a long drawn, 10 to 15 years long, tedious process with a success rate of 6%. But with COVID-19, for the first time ever in human history, 7 billion humans are united in the hope and effort to ensure that this time it will be different. And it sure is. So to your question, as of today, 141 vaccine research projects are underway across the world. And will this hope be met by the Oxford vaccine? Can't say. And if yes, how soon? And if not, why not? Let me delve deeper into it. That's where let me draw a fact-based response to set a very cautious and realistic expectation around the Oxford vaccine. So of the 141 projects that I mentioned, the Oxford vaccine is certainly in the most advanced stage of development. So it was fast-tracked to phase 3 clinical trial in May, which means that this Oxford vaccine is being tested now, or will be tested in about 10,500 healthy volunteers over the next few months to ascertain 3 main endpoints. One, whether it's safe for widespread human use. 2, how effectively does it mimic certain parts of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which is the COVID-19 virus, to trigger and train the human immune system so that it can impart enough protection against reinfection in future. And 3, for how long will this protective effect of the vaccine last? So bases its performance on these 3 criteria, clinical safety, degree of protective strength, and the durability of protection, the how soon of it can be defined. And if it demonstrates satisfactory results by August, September, the group has already formed alliances with its corporate partners like AstraZeneca and the Serum Institute of India to make millions of doses available towards the end of the year. But, and that's a big but, and that's where I was drawing the caution and realism in the response. There are 3 points that may delay or derail the Oxford vaccine project. Again, one, the technology platform used to design this vaccine is one of the most modern ones, but not yet established. So while there is no marketed or distributed vaccine of this type that exists for human use, it has been used and tested in trials over thousands of people before, because this is also the platform being tested for the Ebola vaccine development project. And it has proven safe in those trials. So one can anticipate safely or not. The same for COVID. Now, although the 2 viruses, both Ebola and this coronavirus SARS-CoV-2, do not belong to the same family, let me explain in simple words without really, throwing in the scientific jargon why it may be successful still. The way this platform works is that one simply substitutes the Ebola antigen genes with the COVID virus antigen genes to trigger immunity. And in animal studies, at least, this platform with the coronavirus gene has produced strong and effective preventing effect against COVID infection in the lungs of monkeys where it's been tested. So now all depends on this large-scale human trial where it needs to demonstrate the same protective and preventive effect. Point number two, on its usefulness. The design of this platform allows this vaccine to be a single dose vaccine, which is a huge advantage on the overall timeline of testing and evaluating trial results, which is an ask for this pandemic. So whatever the result we will know for sure by September whether this vaccine is a go or not. And three, and this is a very important one because this is also a biggest, the biggest determinant of risk on the progress of this trial, which is the curve flattening, which all nations are working on. And this is being brought about in the UK with the lockdown, etc. So it sounds freakishly wicked and bizarre, but the best time and place for a vaccine trial is when the disease is raging in its attack rate and not dwindling to show that the vaccine, to show that the vaccine is working in protecting people with active infection prevailing in the community. So there is a huge time pressure to recruit volunteers for this trial, or there may arise a need where the trial sites have to be shifted outside of the UK where it is being tested at the moment, where the curves are still rising. And by doing so, we will add another reason for delay in the Oxford vaccine project. So that was a lowdown on the opportunity threat scenario for Oxford vaccine success that will determine whether we will have it. If we have it, then how soon? And if by August, September, the trials are successful, then of course, I think there are already plans to manufacture millions of doses which can be made available for human use.
Yeah. While we're all hoping that it comes through, what do you think? What is the plan B? Like, let's assume the Oxford vaccine is delayed or found not effective. What do you think should be our plan B? And lately, there's been a lot of discourse regarding a Chinese vaccine that may actually win the race against time. What are your thoughts on that?
Right. So Oxford vaccine being one candidate, we still have 140 other vaccine candidates, as I said, which are being tested. And out of these 140, 15 are already in clinical evaluation, which means that they are in human trials. Now, 5 of these 15 are from China, and 9 from the US, another one from the UK, and very recently, one has entered, phase 1 trials from Germany. So I don't want to call it a plan B. I think all these projects have to run in parallel. Whatever brings in success, that will be great for humanity. Yeah. But to talk about China's 5 projects, but before that, 4 from China and 2 from the US, which also includes the much, talked about Moderna's mRNA vaccine. They have reached phase 2. So they are just a step behind the Oxford vaccine trial. Now, each of these vaccine trials, are testing new approaches or tech platforms on which vaccines are based. One of the candidates, which is actually the most ahead in the phase 2 trial, is co-developed at the Beijing Institute of Biotechnology, and it is using the same platform as the Oxford vaccine project. It's called the adenovirus, nucleotide platform. The other 3 are designed on traditional, very established approach of inoculating inactivated virus or attenuated virus that cannot cause disease into humans to generate immunity. So whether the China vaccine comes forward or the Oxford vaccine succeeds first, I can't say. But I can just tell you that since Oxford vaccine is a little ahead in the race, they have already started the phase 3 trials. If the Oxford vaccine succeeds, the Beijing Institute vaccine is expected to hold a similar promise.
That's good. You just mentioned actually about how COVID-19 has seen the kind of headway that no other disease or virus has seen before. And in your recent article also you mentioned something very pertinent question, that what if the 2002-3 SARS-CoV virus, if a vaccine existed for that, maybe coronavirus COVID-19 could have been nipped at the bud. I want to know your thoughts on this, and I also know what lessons the policymaker, government, and the industry can learn from this.
Yeah, so for the last SARS epidemic, the 2002-03 epidemic, it was caused by a similar coronavirus called SARS-CoV-1. And the current pandemic, SARS-CoV-2 is guilty of that. So both are coronaviruses. They share a common mode of attack. Their genomes are very similar, especially in the regions that determines their attack mode. So both of them use something called a spike protein or protein S. That's all over the papers. So this spike protein is actually the key that both the viruses use to unlock a certain receptor in human cells, which are called ACE receptors. So its spike key gets in to unlock the ACE receptors in human cells to enter. Now, also, unlike many other deadly viruses such as HIV, that mutate at a tremendous pace, both these SARS viruses have shown to show a very slow to moderate mutation rate, which is extremely beneficial for vaccine development. Now, both these aspects, the similarity with the SARS-CoV-1 virus and manageable mutation rate, clearly points to the direction that if a SARS-CoV-1 vaccine existed, chances are that it would have been effective, or at least partly effective, that could have been used to ebb the ravaging first wave of the COVID pandemic to a manageable intensity. Now, for years at stretch, if you go through the WHO documents, it is repeatedly enlisted in these documents that SARS coronaviruses are among the top 5 threats likely to cause future pandemics. Yet, the last attempt made at the SARS vaccine research for the last SARS-CoV-1 virus was made only long back in April 2012. Of course, the entire project was stalled because the pandemic itself disappeared at that point in time. So, out of sight is out of mind. That kind of mode played. But unbeknownst to the world, even though it was known, that it is one of the top 5 threats, no advocacy or action happened after 2012. So clearly there's a lesson for policymakers, not just that we have to get smarter on pandemic surveillance, which anyways is happening with, bringing in a lot of digital applications and AI into the surveillance aspect of future pandemics, but also we have to be very prepared for the top 10 threats with investments going in, for developing medical countermeasures, whether these are vaccines or therapeutics, so that we don't get into this so-called race that we are speaking of right now. It is premature to predict now which strategy or which Trojan horse will come close to the target of the 141 that we were speaking about. And by the way, I like that you called it actually a race against time and not race amongst nations or companies. It is phenomenal this time how Big Pharma has come together to form alliances, and countries have pooled investments in this common quest. So it's in our interest that multiple vaccines now make it to the finish line to alleviate all the manufacturing and access challenges. Because remember, the success rate of vaccine development is only 6%. So we can only hope now that the spirit of collaboration and fairness stays alive, not only when the world has has one or more vaccines, but also the spirit of collaboration for being prepared for any other future pandemic, to invest resources and finances into being prepared for the pandemics of future.
Yeah. So another thing, while we've already discussed the race for vaccines, moving on towards the drugs, we've heard of remdesivir, and lately we've also heard about dexamethasone. So do you think we are putting the adequate amount of effort towards finding a cure as we are towards finding a vaccine?
Yes, there is a very aggressive effort even on drug development or repurposing several kinds of drugs that could be used for COVID-19. And At this moment, as we speak, there are close to 1,200 trials that are across the world that are ongoing to test existing drugs or new molecules as possible treatments to slow infection progress. You've already named two. There are many others, and they belong to several classes of drugs such as antivirals or antimalarials or immunosuppressants or even antibiotics. We've heard a lot about the BCG vaccine, offering preventive effects. So many of these trials, about 200 of them, are looking at preventing effects of existing drugs that could slow the infection progress. And many others are looking at treatments. So remdesivir from Gilead made a lot of waves. Before that, hydrochloroquine, and now dexamethasone, which is already a very popular steroid drug. So yeah, I mean, time will tell which cocktail will emerge successful finally.
Yeah.
Let's see, but it may not be that urgent if a vaccine is found. So we are all hoping that the vaccine is found while these 1,200 trials are ongoing for the currently existing drugs.
Okay. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for your views. We will definitely be able to use some of them in our future research. And thank you everybody for being here. If you have any comments or suggestions, please do post them on the video. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.